So here's what I did to it, and here's the transition from the music to the vocals. Here we go. Switch up. Woo. Woo. Here go my drums. Man, I had fun with this. I definitely had fun with this. Starting off as a producer, right? We always want to sound like, you know, our favorite producers, which, I mean, it's all right. We feel like we can make those type of beats, so we want to sound like them. But it's certain simple things that we need to learn. We need to learn the basics. So I just want to teach you 3 simple sample techniques that's going to help you in making chops. This is going to be a 3-part video on sample techniques. Today we're gonna talk about looping your samples. So let's jump into it. First thing you want to do is whatever sample that you grab, you want to make sure that it is a WAV file, right? If it's not a WAV file, you can go online, go to the internet, type in online audio converter, and you can convert any audio to whatever type of file format that you want to use. So I'm going to create a new group, and I'm going to throw this wave into the sampler. Now, before we do anything with the sample, make sure that we put the sample in polyphony 1. That allows it to choke itself. Now that I got it in polyphony 1, right? The other thing we want to do is make sure I get the tempo set. Tap the pad with the sample, let it play, and I want to use the tap tempo function on my machine to get the tempo. All right, here we go. As I walk through the valley of the shadow. All right. So for my sample, I got 80.59, right? So the first thing I'm gonna do is just change that to 80 because I hate saying that dot, whatever, right? So now that I got the tempo right, that is the tempo of the sample, and I'm going to test it by doing this. As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I take a look at my life. All right, so y'all heard the metronome, and I got it in timing with my sample. The next thing I want to do is make my chops. There's 2 places I want to loop this sample. I want to loop it at the very beginning without the words, and then the end I'm going to loop the choir. That's the part I'm really going to use. I'm going to zoom in, take my starting point, and put it right at the beginning. One thing that I want to teach you guys is when you're chopping your samples, right? When you start your cursor, you want the audio waveform to land on the 0 crossing point. The 0 crossing point is the straight lines going right through the sample, right? You see how the waveform goes up, goes down, goes up, goes down. If you put your starting point on like where it touches that line, you will not get any clicks or pops when you start your sample. There's my starting point right there, and I'm going to find my ending point, right? So let's take this cursor, let's go all the way to the end, let's play it. Well, let me zoom in a little bit, and I'm gonna play it from here. As I walk through. All right, so now I see where my endpoint needs to be. It needs to be like right around here, but I'm gonna zoom in and do a finer chop than that. All right, so again, let's bring it back, and I want to put it like right at the 0 crossing point, which is about there. Now let's play it and make sure I got my chop right. 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, Stop. Cool. Perfect. Perfect. Now, what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to duplicate this and bring it down to pad 2. I'm going to tell you why I did that. This is the chop that I want in the beginning. Once I truncate this, I'm going to lose everything to the right of this end cursor. Truncate this. This is my first chop, and I'm going to call this music chop. And then here, I'm going to use the audio at the end for the choir, right? So I'm going to go all the way to the end. I'm going to go right to where the music stops and get my choir chops. Now, right now, I just took a 4-bar loop from this song, a 4-bar loop, which makes my loop for the sample, right? So let's see where it starts. 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. Cool, perfect. All right, so I got to end it right about there. Let's hear it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. All right, so I'm gonna bring it back just a little bit more, just so I can have that perfect loop. All right, cool. Got my loop. I'm gonna truncate that as well, and I'm gonna call this choir chops. Choir chops. All right. Now that I have my chops, because I'm using it as a loop, here's a function inside of Maschine that I feel like is one of the dopest, right? Instead of using the sampler VST, right, I'm going to use the audio VST, right? The audio VST has a function inside of it that allows me to change this. Well, I got my mode in stretch, which is where I want it. And what that is time stretch, right? If I change the tempo of the song, change the key of the song, it's still going to be locked into whatever system tempo that I have inside of Maschine. Let's listen to the music loop with the metronome so you can hear that it's on time. You hear that? Perfect loop. Perfect loop. Now that I have my loop, right? I got my chops. The next thing I want to do is make my own creation, right? Now I got everything the way I want it to be, or the way it needs to be as far as my loop chops. I want the tempo to be a little faster, because I'm going to make an R&B track out of this. My drum's going to be halftime. So the way I'll do that is, instead of the original tempo, which is 80, I'm going to go to 90, right? And let's listen to my loop now. Perfect loop, right? I love it. I love it. Now that I got my tempo at 90, right? The next thing I want to do, I do want to change the pitch, right? But I want to make like an intro, right? So my intro is just going to be this music chop. So let's make pattern 1 music chop, right? And let's make a new pattern, and I'm going to call this pattern choir chops. I'm going to take that and I'm going to make that my intro, but I'm going to take the choir chops and I'm going to go up in pitch. Now, here is a gem as far as pitching your samples, right? Pitching anything for real, any type of audio file you have. When you pitch it up, you make it brighter and you give it more energy. When you pitch it down, you make it darker and more moodier or more emotional, right? So what I want to do is I'm going to pitch it up to semitones or half steps if you're a musician or whatever, however. But I'm going to go up too. So let's listen to what this sound like. Now, you have watched me create loops using a sample. This is the end of the video. Thanks for staying, you know what I'm saying, in this long, but this is the end of the video. So here's what I did to it, and here's the transition from the music to the vocals. Here we go. switch up. Woo! Woo! Here go my drums. Man, I had fun with this. I definitely had fun with this. That's the end of the video, man. I hope that you learn how to loop your samples. And thank y'all for tuning in and staying this long for me to teach y'all how to loop your samples. Remember, this is just one technique to use when you working on samples. The other 2 videos are coming soon, so make sure you subscribe and make sure you hit that notification bell, man, so you know when I release that video. Again, thank you for tuning in. Let's make some more beats.